Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us once again here at SGTV. So we are filming for National Apprentice Week. And so far in the series we have had Mark Allison from Apprentice 121, we have had Paul and Terry from Napit, and most recently we have had Neil McManus from Leicester College and two of his students. This week in the series we have the fortune of being able to speak to the Sparky Ninja, one of the most respected people in the business. So, hello, Mr. Ninja.
Hey, mate. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, fine. It's very, very cold. Loads of snow right now.
Yeah.
-6 I had on my phone this morning, it said.
Oh, really?
I was like, crikey, yeah. But it's the sun's out and it's all thawing now.
Yeah. We'll all be moaning that it'll be too hot soon anyway. So.
Yeah. Sooner or later, we'll be moaning it's too hot.
Yeah. So, as we said at the start of this, we're doing episodes for Apprentice Week, and we'll talk more on that further on in the episode. But I want to just ask off the bat, for people who don't know, what your sort of background is in the industry.
So my old man is an electrician. He's actually been doing some stuff with me on the interwebs, so to speak. If you look online, you'll find that. And my granddad was an electrician. And when I was 8, 9, 10, whatever, I then spent some time with the old man at the weekends, going on sites, being helpful, rolling around the back of the van sometimes. And I was good at school. I was going all the way through to A levels, and it got to A levels, and I wasn't really enjoying A levels. And he said, "Well, just look, come work with the family firm and get a skill, get a craft under your belt, and then go to university or college later on, and then you've always got that skill, and you can always fall back, and you always have work for the rest of your life." And I was like, all right then. I didn't really have any ambition to do it. I was just familiar with, what it smelt like to be around a load of cable drums and the feeling of like tools and stuff. I was familiar with all that. So I jumped on board with the family firm. I did the apprenticeship, and about year 4 or so, I kind of got to the end of having done that. I did the 2391 testing. This is about 2002-ish now. And I wanted to just kind of leave where I was, because I knew where I was. It was an ideal place to do an apprenticeship, because whilst it was a family firm, I was made an example of. I would be the one that would do a lot of the extra walking up and down the high street to go and get the stuff, and then go and get the materials. But I was given more responsibilities at the same time. But it was a great place. And I returned to work with the family firm a number of years later, doing just subbing out and all that. But I then went into social housing, and I did a lot of inspection and testing as a void supervisor, just daily testing. And I just wanted to kind of test other areas of the industry. But that was that. I kind of fell into it, really. And I did. And I've thought about, since qualifying, other things that I could have done. Those days when you're really, really cold, freezing yourself, and you wish you had an office job. But then I had an office job when I went into training. And those days when I was bored at my office and I realized it was only 10:30 in the morning and I'd like to actually go home. So there's a real like to and fro. And working on sites and getting around and getting in the van and driving around the country, I really did enjoy. I've obviously now come to the point where I do more consulting and training, just the way things have kind of developed. But I still do a lot of it out and about, up and down the roads, and around the country and stuff. But yeah, I got into it just by family firm, and my dad, my granddad, electricians. I guess it was in the name as well, being a Watts. So
Yeah, enjoyed it. You wouldn't change it now?
I don't know what I would have done alternatively, to be fair. I think, like a lot of people, I'd have probably gone on to do like a degree or something, but then I probably wouldn't use that area that I studied. I know a lot of people that are trained to degree level that some have no debt, but some have quite a bit of debt, but they don't really have any work with that. They don't have the ability to do any work right there. My sister, she's doing her 4th year of university right now, studying languages and Spanish and stuff. And we ask her, well, you're in your last year now up at Edinburgh, what are you going to do? Might teach it. I don't know. She doesn't, so she's been always in education.
It's a lot of debt to get into as well.
It is a lot. And she's like 22, I think now, or something. I was working by the time I was 16, and not earning a lot, obviously on apprentice wage. But the time I was 18, 19, 20, I was able to claim a good on wage, and I had no debt, you see. And I just had that freedom.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with going down the university approach and gaining debt for the sake of doing a job that you know there's something there. But like you say, there's a lot of people out there who do it because they believe that's what they should do, without even having that sort of opportunity or even the knowledge to think, oh, there is that trade route, and it's a very good route.
There's a big stigma to this, and this is where I think about the amount of times I've had a chat with Karen Boom, who I believe has been on with you guys before.
Yeah. Hello, Karen.
Very passionate about the frustration that in schools they talk to everybody about. You want to go all the way in your school to go to university, and they don't think that academics can go into trades or construction. When I know so many electricians and engineers are so knowledgeable, technically able, knowledge of physics, knowledge of maths is crazy, and they're just electricians who are carrying on. And it's apprentices will really enjoy that technical aspect when they come to study science and principles. You'll find a lot of jobbing sparks will go, yeah, but we don't use that much these days. But if they actually try to apply some of this, they will. And this is something that I try to do with the Sparky Ninja stuff, is I try to step backwards a bit into the apprenticeship training journey. And I try to bring some of that back into the forward front, into the trade, just to make us perform a bit better than we are right now. It's one of the things that I've tried to do is level up. It's one of the phrases that we use a lot, to just provide more resources for sparks already out there, to then be able to learn a bit more, to then think about it a bit better, to think, well, okay, I've got more information now, and I've got a bit more guidance, and I can probably perform a little bit better in my installation, my testing, because I've got more knowledge. Because there's so much stuff in the apprenticeship, a lot of it kind of gets delivered, you're assessed, and then it's left, and you go off and work. The AM2 assessment is probably the climax of all of that effort, to be able to do a performance assessment. And a lot of people then just start working and grinding, but they don't maintain some of that knowledge, and it can fall by the wayside. What we're trying to do is establish ways to maintain that knowledge and actually then get that reward for that, by being able to perform better with their reporting skills, with their ability to communicate with their clients. We've worked with so many people that they've struggled to speak to their client in a technical aspect or do a report going beyond the norm. And we've given them some assistance in interpreting regulations, or even leaving BS 7671 and going to other standards. We've assisted them with that, with a little bit of understanding and training for that. And they're now doing that regularly. And their clients are much more assured by them as a main contractor or an electrician, in comparison to all the others that they work with, because it gives the client confidence.
Yeah, it's confidence to use that person again and again, then, and that's how you build in your business, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that's kind of that was kind of the main direction. But that all kind of spurred on from how I fell into training. So I fell into training accidentally, because my dad went into training, and I went in to kind of help out. And when I sat in front of a load of people in an evening, on a Thursday evening, because it was a 2330, and I had to suddenly regurgitate all of that stuff that I learned at college years prior. I didn't remember a lot of it at all. So I had to go back into the folders. And then having done 7 or 8 years of on the tools, and then opening up the folders again, I could then start to join the dots with how a lot of that stuff is actually relevant. And this is something that we're going to do a lot for apprentices, is we're going to try to keep them learning and using what they learn at college.
So I think we've just covered some of this. As we said before we started filming the episode, Sparky Ninja is almost a nickname that stuck with you, but it was more of an organisation. Is that the right word that you set up?
It was kind of a reflex, because I've had 15 or so years of trying to do the best that I can do, but I could always do better in certain areas. But you go on the internet, and there's just a lot of moaning about the state of the industry, about the decline in some standards, about other people's workmanship, and about other people getting work for a much lower cost than we think we could do it for. And it got to the point where I was like, all we're doing in the online space is moaning, and some of us were trying to support. And I had a different alias in other forums and stuff, trying to also contribute and support people. And I thought, well, I'm going to start to do this a bit more. I had the training experience at that time. I thought, right, I enjoy training. Maybe I can take this to YouTube. So I thought, I'll take some key areas to YouTube that are often discussed, talking about the testing courses, talking about the 18th edition, and I'll put it on there. The idea being that the idea is to give more information to the electricians who are out there so they can themselves level up and actually, move forward and actually not have to fight for the work. So if you can talk to a client, if you have two electricians go to a client, one electrician charges X amount and the other electrician charges a ridiculously lower price. If the electrician that wants to do the good job charges an honest price, if they can provide the information to basically support the client in understanding the professionalism of their services, then the client may gamble with the cheaper, but they'll get a lot more confidence with the more expensive. And this is something we've discussed with Dan Jackson when we've done talks, is about finding the right clients for you with regards to their recognizing your value. And a lot of this industry has had a history recently, well, I'd say in the past 10 years, 15 years or so, of lowering the accepted value with, like, just regular DVDs and books, and you only have to do this much. We don't have to do more. We don't have to do more than that. We only have to work to the regulations. What we're trying to say is, well, why don't we work from them? Why don't we actually work beyond those? I was watching an IT webinar just the other day, and one of the gentlemen there, John, he said the 767 is actually just the minimum standard. There's so much other stuff that we can work to from there. And so that's what I started to try to do with the idea of Sparky Ninja, the idea of just allowing electricians a place where they can just learn something or relearn something and decide whether they feel like trying to use that. And it kind of blew up from there. I ended up getting brought into a group of guys where we created the E5 ideology, and we looked at, okay, what we're going to do. So we said, okay, well, we're going to influence, we're going to inspire, we're going to inform people, we're going to educate people, and we're going to support people. And that blew up, and we've been doing that, and we're still doing that. So I kind of have all the people coming through the E5 route that I help out with the other guys. We kind of try, and someone comes in, we see who can best help them. And then I have all the training people coming through Sparky Ninja, and that's pretty much what I'm doing a lot of the time now. But that was the idea. It wasn't really everyone called me Sparky Ninja. It was like, oh, right, let's think about the idea of leveling up and all being better ourselves. But the whole idea of Sparky Ninja was because a guy who helped me out, my brother who's helped me out with the videos and the content and the website, fundamentally, when that ever gets finished, he said, I'll only help you out if you call yourself Sparky Ninja, or you call the project Sparky Ninja. So it's all his name and his design.
Do you find it difficult to stay motivated in the way that, like you say, if you're looking online, originally you were seeing a lot of negative comments from Sparkys themselves. There was probably a lot of Sparkys, not named by name, but in general in the press, sort of getting a bad rap for things like rogue traders and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So from you and what your E5 and everyone are doing, you're doing something positive to help people and bring the quality and the name and the reputation up. But how do you sort of monitor that? How do you see if it's improving?
We lean on each other. It can be very, I mean, we had a lot of work last year, what with COVID. We had a lot of people very, very depressed and in very bad situations leaning on us. And we would sometimes find ourselves overwhelmed, but we leaned on each other. We support each other. We have like this very close group, because a lot of people will come in, but they'll always want something out of it, or they'll always have their own little things. So we become a very tight group. And by that, we lean on each other. And that's actually what makes us strong. Because I mean, I had a request. I was delivering training last night. I had a question. I threw it into my Discord server, and there was about 20 guys there researching for me, helping me out. And it's the same. There was an electrician who's going through a very bad time at the moment. He's got a history of being not very well or happy at the moment. And we would talk about, okay, well, who's got some time and who can actually assist? Because you can say to them, oh, call this number. But as much as that's great and they need to do that, they need to call this number, they also want to have someone that they can talk to, who they can relate to, such as an electrician who knows what it's like to go to a customer and to try to actually get the work for the price that they can then go home and feed their kids with. And we would say, well, okay, well, how can we help you get that customer to actually want to use you? And how can we give you more resources? And how can we, improve what you do so that they're going to come back to you and you can get more? So we kind of try to do it that way, as well as the actual obvious of, the official support of, are you all right? I was out with a gentleman the other night. I was about to go to bed at 1 a.m. He sent me a message on Twitter, are you awake? And it's like, I don't want to be awake, but
But it sets alarm bells, doesn't it,
it
when
sets
someone
alarm
messages
bells.
at that time of night?
And so you kind of, okay. And I was talking to him for a few hours. And sometimes we talk in a Discord server, so we can voice chat. Sometimes it's just on Twitter. But that's how we do it. So there's a lot of negativity in this industry, which is very hard to bring new people in. If when people ask someone about the industry, what's it like to be an electrician? They go, oh no, you should do anything else. We need to reverse that. We need to allow people to understand what great opportunities there are in this trade. And bear in mind, it's very, you get to the end of your training, you then have an option. This is why I don't like calling the AM2 an end point assessment. It's the point where you're about to enter a huge opportunity of, where do you go, in what direction do you go with your career now? And do you want to stay that way, or do you want to do a bit that way and then go this way? And there are ways to do that. That's kind of how we cope with the amount of pressure. We lean on each other. We couldn't do it by ourselves.
So where does that relate to apprentices? Because like you say, people looking to get into the industry, you'd think they're more likely to be apprentices than older learners, even though there are people who retrain later in life and do a good job of that. But how do you think apprentices view the sort of reputation and the standards of the industry that they want to get into?
I think a lot of them a lot of them can see the industry quite transparently now, because they can go onto YouTube and they can watch, some of the well-known YouTubers there show a day in the life of. And to be honest, when it comes to people like me who deliver information and knowledge, that's not going to help them understand that in the morning you're going to be freezing your nuts off in a van in a BP station eating your bacon roll. They need to see that aspect of the industry and the fun bits and the good bits and the banter. And it's a bit to and fro. So I think for apprentices coming in, there's a lot of appeal, and we're going to have more appeal as we have new innovations and new technologies. We have electric vehicles, we've got smart homes. A lot of people will come into the industry indirectly. I do a lot of other training in the events industry, where they come in. So they're into lighting design, or they're into theatre production. And then they start to work a little bit more in the electrical side of that. And then they go like full circle. They come back to become an electrician. A lot of people, because of obviously the current pandemic, the event industry is crippled, and they still haven't got full solutions for funding. There's not enough in that. So a lot of them have had to come back round and retrain. And a lot of them are becoming domestic installers just so they can actually work and earn some money. And then they'll go back to the events when the events kicks off, because a lot of that work just disappeared. Say for people like me, who's a consulting or a subcontracting trainer, all that stuff got shut down, because it's just it's not a necessity, and the events got closed down.
Yeah, I know some people who were into event lighting for gigs and that kind of thing, and almost overnight, that's it. The work stopped. They're having to take delivery jobs for the time being, but there are also a few of them now thinking, actually, we've got certain qualifications. We can look in other directions and get more into the domestic side of things.
Yeah, there's a gentleman who lives on my road. He's just been delivering food for one of the supermarkets. He's okay with it for now, and he's done some training, and he's updated his regulations and his knowledge. But a lot of that industry works subcontract. The bigger companies are basically keeping their head above water, but they subcontract, and they've got to give work to their employees first. So a lot of people have had to kind of just filter off for now. But that's obviously that's the COVID issue. But with regards to the future of the industry, apprentices will have huge opportunities, and it won't just be, I'm going to be an electrician. It's going to be, I'm going to be an electrician that gets into, smart homes or power or green energy or this or this. And it's going to be very hard for them to be able to utilize all of those areas. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to open up significantly. It's just a case of trying to make sure the apprenticeship training itself is delivered in a way that supports them through that. And this is something else that I'm doing. I've got a network of tutors and FE colleges. I'm assisting them with their virtual methods, because they've all had to suddenly miraculously be able to deliver training online. And there are some very, very, very good ones that I know of around the country, but there are some, and and this is the problem, I've got a lot of learners that come to me who are on an apprenticeship, and they're basically being prepared for assessment, so they don't feel they've got experience for. because of this online is the only way to deliver.
The physical side of things, the practical side, yeah.
But this is why apprenticeships are so essential. But you obviously need to make sure that and this is the other thing we need to do with apprenticeships, is talk more to employers, so that we can get employers to realize that there's a great opportunity to give someone the experience with their apprenticeship. So there's work to be done with apprenticeships, but I know that TESP and the people who are dictating the actual qualifications within this industry, they're focusing heavily on the employers communicating with the apprentices. I know NET are doing that as well. NET, who obviously manage the AM2, they're in the middle of creating some extra media and some resources to ensure that employers give apprentices all the opportunities to gain the experience during the apprenticeship, instead of them just being cheap labor. Because there's a stigma that you're just cheap labor and we won't use you for anything else. And some people will say that I didn't do much, I just did the one thing, but that is all being looked into. And sooner or later, apprentices are going to have a huge portfolio, not left at the college or left with the employer. They're going to have it themselves, and they will be able to make sure that they communicate with their employer and the college to say, I've done some of this and now I need to do some of this.
Is that something that Sparky Ninja as a group has done to offer support for apprentices?
It's something, yeah, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. We've been offering mentoring, and we've been basically coordinating people with work, a bit like Apprentice 121's been doing for a little bit. Because some apprentices, or even some new learners who aren't working for themselves, will need to develop some experience in steel containment or doing electrode testing, etc. And sometimes their employment area or their direct employment won't have that work. So we do coordinate work with apprentices. We don't have like an official way of doing it. I have got something in development that kind of does that, because this is something that E5 has helped, because so many very well experienced electricians and engineers who are either sole trader or work for a small firm, they know themselves they've got a huge amount of skills that they're seeing some colleges and some training centers in particular not deliver very well. And a lot of these people coming into the industry now, things like MI cables and things like this, these methods of termination, these methods of work are kind of starting to be lost or relaxed significantly. And a lot of these guys who have this experience with using tube work or MI, or even something as simple as containment, they're starting to say, look, can we help out some learners that aren't getting that experience? And they're offering opportunities that they have, or they're offering to come to colleges and deliver it. Because this is something that does need to be looked into. A lot of colleges just can't get the staffing.
Yeah, I've spoken to several students who have said they're on their third, fourth, fifth, sixth tutor of the year.
In a year,
Yeah.
in 1 year. And that's not great for a tutor. A learner needs to develop a relationship with the tutor so they know what they're doing. And if one day they have a new face that doesn't know how they've been doing, they fall back. And my old man's just been doing some work with the local college, and he is the third tutor they've had this year. And he, just before Christmas, he said, okay, well, they've not given me this, they've not given me that. And so he's had to actually give them some assistance and give them some future work, but he's had to leave because they won't give him the resources. So some colleges are very, very frustrating, which is bad for apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Apprenticeships, as they are structured, is great. The problem is some of the colleges delivering them is where we need to do the work. And what we need is apprenticeships or apprentices to know what they should be receiving, so they can then let us know when they're not getting that. I had a young girl who went to my old college. She said, I'm doing an assessment and I've never done that before. And I said, why are you doing that now? And so I've got involved and I've contacted the center. And I said, well, this person's, and they said, oh, well, we're just pushing everyone to see if they pass. I was like, well, how's that effective? And they're just steaming them through. And so I have sent a nice little email, and I have CC'd it to a person that they did want me to CC it to.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll consider what they're doing. But they'll push that. They'll push the learners. It's a bit, Adrian Davey is a good tutor. He's a new trainer. He's an electrician that wanted to start training. And he sees it a lot like people just, pebble dashing, throwing knowledge at learners and seeing if they can pass assessments.
Almost like a box ticking exercise.
Because it's and what we're trying to say is no. There's information that you can learn at a good pace, but the learner has to retain that information or know where to get it back. And that's what we're doing with Sparky Ninja, I guess.
Do you think that's a good opportunity for experienced electricians who, like you say, they've got that knowledge, they might not be seeing that knowledge be coming filtered through into the apprentices, just to go to their local colleges or training centres and just say, look, I've got a bit of spare time here and there. I'm happy to help. Do you think that's something we could be doing?
It's something that we have seen. We've had a couple of engineers do that. They've done a couple of those. Richard went to one in is it? God, which one did Richard go to? Midlands somewhere, and a couple of others in the northwest. It'd be great if electricians or engineers who are experienced could work in the colleges to deliver the skills. Unfortunately, the money's just not, it's just a non-starter. But yeah, if they can go in and do some support. Before all the COVID stuff with E5, we were going around colleges and we were doing some technical talks. But if you can do some performance experience or some things like that, just to bring the trade into the college better, it's great, because then the learners will realize, what it's really like, because some colleges don't give them enough demonstration of the actual performance requirements in the industry.
Yeah, I've noticed you've got some apprentice Facebook groups. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a main Facebook group, but what we tried to do with that is maintain a high level of respect and understanding, and respect, which for Facebook is very hard to actually achieve, because Facebook's Facebook. But then what would happen is a lot of people would be in that group and they'd be like, okay, I have a question, but I don't know if I should ask it because it's a bit simple. And so we created an apprentice group where there's no too easy a question. Ask anything that you need. We've got like 10,000 or so people in these groups.
So is that people who are watching this, they can head on over to that and they might find something useful there?
Yeah, they can go into there. They'll find people talking about how they're finding their apprenticeships. They'll be talking about how they're finding the knowledge and the theory. There might be people asking from experience or some work. There'll be people in there helping out. A lot of the people that go into the apprentice group who are experienced, the best thing about the apprentice group is you haven't got the Sparky that just wants to go into a group and learn himself. You've got more about the engineers that want to help the actual people coming into this industry. So a lot of the people giving advice in that group are actually, like-minded, and they want to actually help assist and help nurture young learners and new entrants to this industry. Because we need people coming into this industry to be of good level of training and understanding, so they can maintain the outputs of workmanship, because that's what's been in heavy decline in the past 15 years.
Yeah.
Workmanship has just gone quite downward, and we need to try to get that back up. Then we can start actually having a happier time.
You mentioned about people almost being scared to ask questions, and that's something I heard quite recently as well. With home learners from college, they're almost scared to just put their hand up or email their tutor and ask something they don't know. And
yeah,
I don't know why that would be, and I'd only hope that we can encourage people just to don't be afraid. If you've got, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced electrician. If there's something you don't know, just ask. It's not
everybody is different, and I'm like this when I deliver training. I was like this last night. Everybody is different, and last night I had a group of 27 people on a course, and at the very end I said, right, there was a couple of people that have been asking questions throughout. I was like, okay, anything? Yeah, they asked, and it's fine. And then I was like, okay, and I was just drinking my water. So I was playing a bit of my Japanese music at the end of the Zoom session, and I was like, oh, there's some people here, they're not leaving, so I'm not going to go. Is there anything else you wanted to ask? And then once the room was a bit smaller, then some people started asking some questions. And I just went, yeah, fine. Or if you want, I'll have a private meeting. If you want to have a one-to-one, just email me and I'll set up a Zoom meeting if you're afraid of other people reacting to your question. But everyone needs to know that your opportunity to learn is your opportunity. Yeah, and if you don't catch up, if you don't keep up, if you choose not to interact with your tutor or your trainer, you're just going to fall behind even further yourself, and you're going to actually really struggle. But the job of the tutor is there to keep everyone at a level. And if you find that the tutor in the room just focuses on the 4 or 5 at the front row who confirm to him that he's doing a good job and that everyone's on top, then he'll move forward. And if you're at the back and you're not keeping up, then you need to speak up.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's almost people have sort of believed that? I mean, we see some of the videos and things like that where apprentices are treated like trash for a funny video or whatever. But in all seriousness, most employers and apprentices are going to be treated well. But do you think that sort of negative side has almost impacted their confidence to ask questions?
It can do, and there are many people that even I get messages and they'll go, "I know you're very busy. I'm sorry to disturb you." I was like, "Okay, you have to apologize for asking a question.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that." It's very nice when you ask a question politely instead of a simple, rude, like obstructive, "Tell me this answer."
How much do you earn?
Yeah, yeah, that kind of thing, that kind of rude stab of information that you request. But there are many people that do kind of fear kind any kind of response. And this is again what it did happen in the Facebook. There'll be like people going, "Are you even a spark?" when someone would ask a question. Maybe they're not. Maybe they are a domestic installer who wants to know more about electricians to decide on going on a training journey. Maybe they are an apprentice. Maybe they are someone looking into the industry from the outside, thinking about coming in. So it's up to us to make sure that they are welcome. Because whilst we can maintain, a level of professionalism amongst ourselves, we need to make sure we're always welcoming people into this industry.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And if we welcome them nicely, we'll encourage them to come in and actually work hard. And all they're going to do then is go out as a very good professional, and they'll go to the client down the road from you and they'll quote X amount because of their professionalism, which will be good for you because you can compete at that price. The problem we have right now is there are so many people authorized into the industry with very little training through domestic installer routes or other learn from home routes, which are just textbook driven, that they don't value what they've done and they just charge the minimum because they don't actually do much of what they could do, with some of the work. And we
Yeah.
need to this is the level up concept. If we inspire people to improve what they know and we improve how they apply themselves, then we'll get electricians being able to charge better and proper money again, and then we'll have less moaning.
Yeah. Talking of leveling up, we spoke briefly about this earlier in the episode about different career paths that you can
Mhm.
take as an electrician.
Yeah.
So could you, for our audience, could you give us a few, not nothing too in depth, but a few examples of the ways you can go? Like you say, once you've done your basic qualifications, you don't have to just go into.
Well, I can just explain the network that I'm in right now. I mean, me myself, I did an apprenticeship, small commercial company. I then went into housing association, void supervisor, testing. I then went from there to a company doing commercial installation as a qualifying supervisor. I then went from there to qualifying supervisor for a larger housing association. I then went into training. And then whilst I started doing training, I moved into consultancy. And since doing consultancy with training, I've moved into arc flash consultancy and thermal imaging. And I'm now a thermographer as well as an inspector. And I consult and I do YouTube. So I've gone down that direction. Now, my close group, the E5 group, we've got Paul Skirm, who did his degree level. He's done machinery, consultancy, he travels the world. We've got Dan, who does fire consultancy. We've got Paul, who's an asset manager for a railway. We've got Ryan, he now runs a software company because he's taken his interest in housing associations, testing, and he's identified gaps and he's created a solution. Yeah. And then there's like a friend of mine who's just become a fellow of a management thing today. He's in water. No, he's in water, digs tunnels for a living. There's so many different directions that you can get into, and you can stay in that direction. I've not even mentioned the events industry that I do a lot of work in as well. Or you can jump back and go back to your initial qualification and then do another retrain: photovoltaics, electric vehicles, smart homes. Yeah. Factories, food production, I do a lot of work with. Offshore. There's so much,
Yeah.
and they're all their own little unique areas. You can't do one and then tomorrow go to the other with the same level of competence. You need a completely different level of experience and knowledge. So you have new journeys everywhere you go.
Yeah, and it can all start from
It all
taking an
starts from an
apprenticeship. Yeah,
apprenticeship.
exactly.
And you get to the end of the apprenticeship, you do your AM2, your end performance assessment, and then you go, right, what should I do first? Let's do that. And then I can then move from there forward, or I can then stay there and I can go that way. And sometimes, again, we always try to say, let's move forward all the time. Let's go from level 3 to level 4 to level 5. Sometimes it's really fun to just move sideways a little bit, to go from this to design, or from this to inspection, or from this to thermal imaging. And we can take on some of these other skill sets, and we can then suddenly become more professional in those skill sets, which gives our clients an even more attractive appeal to what we can offer, because we can combine what we have. A lot of thermographers, qualified internationally recognized thermographers who do panel thermography, aren't electricians. So they have to have electricians as plus ones to actually remove the panels and things like that. If you can combine these things along with like good health and safety training to create a system of work, you've got a huge package in one person. You see, so there's a huge plethora of diversity in this industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities for young people in this
Yeah,
country to progress, and I think that's a message that they need to be that we need to be getting across to people, which they might not be getting now, whether that's at school or wherever they may be.
no, again, at school, it's all focused on your primary education that gets you to your GCSEs, and they'll be saying do well in these, then you can get into another journey of learning. Um, Look at what's available online. Look at what you like, and if you like, for example, if you like gaming, I like gaming, and so I'm looking into STEM and I'm looking into coding, and I'm combining that with my electrical understanding. So I'm actually doing VR right now because I can bridge them across. It's just so much to know. But if you go into the electrical industry, you develop that ability to look at things technically, and you can move on. I mean, I know somebody that moved off into an area of some kind of physics subject. From he was in the classroom with me, and he's now some physicist in Reading, working at the university. I have no idea what he does.
But it
I'm
sounds
sure
cool.
it sounds cool. I know one of the equipment is he uses a spectrum analyzer for something, but that's about all I know about what he does. And he only carried on work in education for another 2 years after we'd finished, and he ended up there. So there's so many different things, but it's all built on the core principle of being able to do your maths, your science, and your English, which you need to do, and then you need to get those onto an apprenticeship. Or if you don't have those, they can give you some support to get you onto an apprenticeship. And then once you're in your apprenticeship, you can just earn and learn.
Yeah, you offer accredited courses yourself, don't you, for Sparkies?
I offer courses for Sparkys. I don't offer direct apprenticeship courses myself because I just haven't obviously had the time to put Sparky Ninja as a big enough enterprise. I do some work with companies that do support apprentices and they deliver the JTL apprentices, and so I get involved in helping out with them.
Yeah, where can people who are watching this find that for more information?
Well, more information about the courses I do, they'll appear on sparkyninja.com when I have the time to run one. But what I will be doing is on there very soon, I will be putting some colleges that I work very closely with, kind of having this understanding that they are doing a great job with apprenticeships, and whether they're delivering sole apprenticeships or they're working with JTL, and you'll get great information on there. Or in the social media space that I'm in, if you contact me, you'll just get an honest response. And sometimes the honest response isn't the response you wanted, because I wanted it to sound easier or whatever. But if you listen to the advice that we give, hopefully we can give you motivation with that advice. That's the key. We don't want to just give you bad news. We want to say, look, let's do it properly, but here's where you can do it properly. Not here's a problem, no solution. Here's a challenge, and here's a way. That's kind of how we interpret it. I've had some young apprentices that have had no idea. They've had no support from their college right now. One guy did one of these, get a loan and pay for the full load of things. This is he should have done an apprenticeship. He's now £7,500 in debt, and he now wishes he did an apprenticeship, even though it took a bit longer. But you can. The problem is people say, "Oh, I've got commitments and stuff." When I went into training, I trained apprentices, but they worked 2 evenings a week on a Thursday and Thursday and a Tuesday, from 6 till 9 or so. So you can do it part-time apprenticeships. You don't have to go full-time to college. You can do it part-time. I did 1 day a week, but you can do 2 evenings a week if you've got another job. You can still move into apprenticeships, and apprenticeships aren't just for school leavers. They do apprenticeships for, young adults now. So
how long would that take? So say for someone who's watching this who that might have just pricked up their ears and thought, actually, I'm earning okay now. I'm not in a situation where I'm living at home or whatever, and I do have bills to pay, and I want to do 2 evenings a week. How long would that take an apprentice to complete?
worst case is probably 4 years, 2 years of level 2 and a year of level 3. And then the 4th year is where you start working with what you've done, and you do your MVQ portfolio and you get your AM2. Okay. I think if you visit the JTL site, they structure it as 4 years. because the fourth year is your NVQ portfolio, where you fill your performance evidence. So what that basically means is you do 3 years of learning, then you get work, and then you collect evidence of your experience with work. So you're working with somebody, and then when you captured all that experience on a registered portfolio, they then push you for your end assessment, which then gives you that final tick. If, though, you start your level 2 and level 3 whilst also getting work experience, that fourth year can start to be accomplished in those 3 years. And this is how most of us were doing it, is that we were working whilst learning. So we were doing NVQ 3 and NVQ 2 during level 2 and level 3. And so it was 3 years.
How do you record this work? This might sound silly, but one of the tutors I spoke to recently was trying to hammer home the message of record your work. So what would that entail exactly?
Okay, this is like I do recommend to anybody, is if you're working, you get an opportunity to do something, even if you're not working officially, but you're getting some experience with an electrician, capture it. So capture the evidence, whether it be, you know, something as simple as health and safety literature or wiring systems or breaking a building fabric, all of that cross references to the portfolios, and you can actually download them. You can download the portfolio to see what kind of evidence you need to capture, because that's the job of the assessors. If you don't know where to find that, message me and I'll show you where those are. And way I would say is, right, one of the key things is your evidence must be authentic. So what I would say is create a gimmick. Let's say, for example, let me look at my desk. I don't know. I've got a random thing that is unique for me. I don't know. I've got a storm gland here. I've got some kind of yellow jelly baby smelly thing that my wife gave me at Christmas, right? It could be, I think one of the guys I said it was his Star Wars keyring or your name, but put it into the image. So it's not a Google search, right click, save as. It's actually an image that this traceable thing that is referenced to you was on site at that time. And with it, add a passage, a note of what you did, why you did it, how you controlled it. And then you may not need that for months, a year or so. But then when you're asked about a portfolio, you may then have traceable evidence that can start cross-referencing to your MVQ portfolio. As long as the assessor can verify the evidence you're giving is authentic, then they can capture that.
Yeah, and that might be enough to take 4 years down to 3 by
Exactly.
doing. Yeah.
It's. I mean, we have, when we come to assessing, we use terms like, you know, try to do assessing holistically. Try to capture as much as we can without falsifying it. So we don't say to the learner, oh, now go and do this, and then another week, oh, now go do this, and he could say, but I did that last week. You know, because it can be very frustrating if we just keep sending the learner away and say, look, now you need to go do this one and then this one. No. Give us evidence of everything. We'll see what we can reference off. And there are other methods. There's observation, there's witness testimony, there's professional discussion to capture that evidence. But if you start working in the industry, whatever you're doing, it could even be something like doing an order, going to a wholesaler. That is all part of outcomes that we need to cross-reference, so that you actually know how to, you know, design and order things. Capture it and then put it aside. And when you've got a portfolio, those outcomes will then be requested, or just show it to an assessor, and they'll go, okay, well, good, you've got a third or 2/3 of this done. And then we can narrow the end of that journey.
Back up your saves as well. If you've got it all on a cloud or somewhere like that, back it up. You don't want to lose a year's worth of physical work.
Yeah, and it's very easy to do. The thing is, I mean, take a picture on your phone, let it sync up to the cloud or whatever. But if you have a little thing, a little key ring or a little thing or a little sticker, I don't know, you know, everyone's going with sticker swaps now, whatever, but get it in the shop so that you can clearly identify it's authentic. Add a note of what it is, where it was, what you were doing, maybe who you were doing it with if you're working with an electrician. Then if anything, the assessor can always call the electrician to say, oh, on this day you had this guy with you, and and he can just confirm that yes, you actually did dig the trench and you did terminate the armored and you did go to the wholesaler and you didn't just turn up with a piece of thing and take pictures. You know, that's one way that you can try to get that. There are ways, I mean, this is something that, this is very unfortunate. There are people that try to make it as quick as possible. If they start to say, right, I need you to say you've done this, or here's a document, send this back to me with your name on it, that's falsifying evidence. The evidence needs to be done naturally. It needs to be something you've done in the industry. And if you feel that there's something you haven't had an opportunity to do because your workplace doesn't do it, then ask someone else at college, ask the assessor if you can talk to the employer, or you can come to online and people like us will be able to provide you some alternatives. You know, we might be able to find some mentorship or something to try to give you that experience, some opportunity like that. Okay, there are solutions. What you don't want to do is falsify evidence, because the
Yeah.
MVQ is very important.
And you're not going to learn it at the end of the day
You're not going to
either.
learn if you're guessing it or if you're faking it.
Before we go, David, I want to ask, do you have any top tips for apprentices to finish the episode off?
Okay, we're
I put you on the spot now. Sorry.
We're at a time where apprentices obviously go to college and they learn, and then they go to work, and they can go into that cycle. But we're now at a time in the past few years where there are so many people in the social media space, and there's so much learning in webinars now, what with COVID, that don't think that going to college and just listening and learning is all you have to do. You can start to think and listen to other things and learn other things. The college might say, no, stay on course because do your assessments. Don't overdo it. But start to observe other places that do webinars, that learn, because if you're in a group of learners and you're one of 30, the pace will be matching the best level of the group of 30. And if you find that you're actually picking things up very quickly, and you find that you're actually kind of like, come on, let's move on. Yeah, there are many people who I now network very closely with. I'll go on my Discord server and I'll pop in. I go, what are we talking about now? And they'll overwhelm me with information and stuff. And these are apprentices that have chosen in their own time to start researching standards, looking at the future. They've watched a webinar and they've decided to go to the next level and do some research. And they're finding it very interesting. Now, these people might appear weird to the normal person, but when it comes to them actually having a journey of learning and getting a career, they're going to have a lot more people listening to them, and they're going to have a lot more things to say to prospective employers and clients, because they've got a lot more understanding. So for apprentices now, if you find that you're struggling to keep up, speak up with your tutors and stuff. The tutors are doing the best that they can. Moving forward, you know, there's a lot more support for tutors, but do look online in the spaces, or go to the apprentice groups or whatever. If you get any abuse or whatever, you've gone to the wrong place. There are places where people are nice on the internet. They are out there. Okay. If you're finding that it's too slow, again, there are people out there that will encourage you to go further, but they won't push you too far. If you're a learner, they'll know that, and they'll give you a bit, and they won't push you too hard. So my advice to apprentices is to stick to apprenticeships, obviously, but try to adapt your learning at a pace that suits you. Too much or too little with the classroom can obviously put you off. And I wish I had, when I was in my apprenticeship, I wish I had a lot of people that I now talk to very regularly on my phone, because there's so many times that I was basically stuck, and I didn't have the patience, or the college didn't give me enough attention, and I'd fall behind. Or sometimes, I would want to move forward with things like testing. I love testing. And I wanted to push forward with that, but I couldn't until we got to another unit and stuff. So do look online, but always make sure it doesn't affect your actual apprenticeship, your learning at this college. All right, so that's my best advice to apprentices, is just look outside that, because a lot of colleges can put you on a machine of learning, and you're on a conveyor belt going around, and sometimes you can do more than just that, and if you do more than that, then try and go for it.
Well, I hope people out there watching this has found that useful. I know I have. I've learned some things, so that's only a good thing. I want to thank you, David, for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for the call. It's National Apprentice Week's a good thing. For me, obviously, apprenticeships are all year round. I try to help and improve things. And so, if you have any issues, send a message, reach out.
Yeah, we'll put
see if you find anybody that can actually help.
We'll put a link in the description for this video for Sparky Ninja. So if anyone wants to go over there, then feel free to go over there. There's some great content from Sparky Ninja, so definitely one to look out for. And thank you all again for watching. If you like this, please make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification button below for more videos from us here at SGTV. That's all for today, and we'll see you next time.